Hi, it's Galfi and Galfette. In this video, I'm going to tell you everything about effects and the FX channel. We'll look at inserts, sends, how and when to use them, and I'll also tell you about the differences between pre and post fader. I'll be right back after the intro. First of all, if you like this video, you can add a like. It's always a great motivator for us to keep making videos. And if you find our videos interesting, why not subscribe to our channel and activate the bell? There are several ways of using effects in Cubase. The easiest is to use what we call inserts. So, an insert is exactly like adding an effect pedal between an instrument and an amp. To create an insert, you have several options. From the track inspector, activate the inspector window here. Select your track. And click on the insert button here. You can then choose an effect from the list. If you want to learn more about the inspector, I've talked about it in another video, and you'll find the link in the description. If you don't see the inserts button, right-click and set up sections and select inserts. You can also use the channel tab. First activate the leftmost window. After that, the procedure is the same as for the inspector. Click on Insert, then on the empty slot to access the list of effects. From the track properties, click on the little E here. You see that you can add up to 14 effects in pre-mode, i.e. pre-fader, and 2 more in post-fader. I'll tell you more about pre- and post-fader later in this video. Finally, you can also add inserts from the console. You can open it in the bottom area of the project window, by clicking here, then on the Mix Console tab. I usually prefer to call it up with F3 to open the Mix Console in an independent window. If you're using the console in the bottom window, you have a button here to display inserts instead of faders. You can go back to the fader by clicking the faders button. Same thing with the sends, click on the sends button, then on the faders button to go back to the faders. I'll also tell you more about sends later in this video. If you open the console with F3, you can access the inserts directly by opening the inserts rack. If you don't see this rack, click on this button to customize the console display and tick inserts. Once you've selected an effect, it opens in a separate window so you can adjust it as you wish. If you want to deactivate an effect, it's done in the same way in the Inspector, Channel tab, Console or Track Properties. You have this little icon you can click on. An active insert is in blue, a deactivated insert is in gray. You'll also notice this other icon. When it's blue, at least one insert is active. If it's yellow, all inserts are deactivated. It's the same icon on the Mix console. This icon is replaced by a gray circle in the track properties. If you click on it, it turns yellow and all inserts are bypassed. There are, however, several problems with inserts. For example, if you want to hear the natural sound of the instrument, the only way is to deactivate the effects, even if you have a mix button on the effect. On the other hand, if you have several tracks with the same effect, it takes up CPU resources and can slow down your computer or the project's playback. And finally, if you want to modify the effect, you'll have to do so for each track. One way around this problem is to assign all the tracks concerned to a group track on which you activate the desired effect. This way, only one instance of the effect is loaded on the group track. I already told you about the group track in a previous video, and I'll put the link in the description too. Now, if you want to be able to dose the sound with effect and the natural sound of the instrument, you can use an FX track. The FX track works like an amp's effects loop, allowing you to dose natural sound and sound with effect through a fader. You can create this track via the Send tab in the track properties, by right-clicking and Add FX track. You can create it in an outside folder, in which case it appears in the track list. If you create your track in an inside folder, it will appear in the FX track folder at the bottom of the track list. Once the FX track has been created, you can assign it to other tracks by clicking on the Send tab in the Inspector, Channel tab or Mix console. Click on the free slot and choose the FX track you want. In this way, you can assign an FX track to several tracks, including group tracks. Now let's talk about the difference between pre and post fader. A pre-fader effect is displayed in blue. A post-fader effect is orange. You can change the pre- or post-fader routing by clicking on this icon. If I set my effect to post-fader, this means that the signal from my audio track and the signal from the effect will both be linked to the fader. As a result, when I lower my fader, the signal and the effect drop at the same time. So, to separate the two and be able to dose the effect independently of the original signal, I can right-click on my effect and switch to pre-fader. You'll see that the color has changed, which is a good reference point. And you can see that, if I lower the fader on this track, only the original sound signal is affected. The effect signal remains constant. Among other things, this allows me to precisely measure the impact of my effect on my final sound, since the two are now independent. I wish you a great weekend and I'll see you next week.